So here we've got two simultaneous equations. Now we should recognise that when they say simultaneous, that means we're going to have to find two values, because simultaneous means there are two or three things happening at once depending on how many letters we've got. So these equations here, we've got two letters x and y. So basically they're asking us to find the value of x and find the value of y. Can't solve an equation with two letters in it directly, hence the reason we need two equations to happen simultaneously, and then there's a technique that we can use to cancel one of the letters out to leave us finding the value of the other one. So the way we think about this is the numbers in front of the letters are called coefficients. So we try and make sure that the coefficients in front of one of the letters is the same number, so that we can either add the equations to cancel in or take the equations away to cancel as well. So we could multiply this one by 7 and this one by 5. That would make 35 x's in both. Or I could simply just double the top one, and that would make a 4 appear in front of that y. Well, there's already a 4 in front of that y. So, like all maths, keep it simple if we can. So I'm only going to multiply the top one by 2. So I'm going to double the top equation. So that's going to give me 10x take away 4y equals 26. Now, I can see then that 4y's take away 4y's will be nothing. But to get that to work, I have to add the equations. So basically I'm going to take equation B, label that one equation C, and I'm going to add C. So just so you can see what's happening here, I'm going to write out the two equations again. So 7x plus 4y equals 8 was equation B. Equation C was the one we created, so 10x take away 4y equals 26, and we're going to add them. 7x's plus 10x's gives us 17x's. Now here's why this technique works. 4y plus take away 4y, well that means we've got 4y plus take away 4y. Two signs next to each other, we've always got to consider, do they change into a single sign? Well, yes they do. This one's going to change into a takeaway. Plus and the minus next to each other changes into a takeaway. So we've got 4y's take away 4y's, which is nothing. So they've cancelled each other out, which is what you want to happen, because then we can solve the equation because we now have one letter. 8 plus 26 is 34. So we can see that 17x's are going to be the same as 34. So we divide both sides by 17. 17 times opposites divide. So 1x is going to be worth 2. We now put this value of x into, now here's, it doesn't really matter. You can choose any one of the three equations you're working with. I'm just going to keep it simple, and I'm just going to choose the first one, but I could have chosen any one of them to do this next stage. So I'm going to put this value of x into equation A to find y. Right, so equation A said 5x take away 2y equals 13. Well, we've decided that x is 10, so 2, so we found x was 2. So 5 times 2 take away 2y gives me 13. So 5 times 2 is 10, take away 2y is 13. And again, it's just the usual solving equations. So we take away 10 from both sides. So that gives me take away 2y equals, or negative 2y equals 3. And then we divide by negative 2. And divided by negative 2 divided by negative 2 is just positive 1. So that's positive 1y, which is what we want. And then 3 divided by negative 2 is going to be negative, because we've got a positive divided by a negative, which gives us a negative answer. And we're doing 3 divided by 2, which is 1.5. So we think the answers are going to be 2 and negative 1.5. But this is the critical thing about this topic. You must check the values work in the other equation that you've got from the beginning. I've used equation A to find the value of x and y, but I must check the same value will work for equation B. They're simultaneous, so we have to make sure that the x and y values work for both equations. It's such a critical step for this topic of simultaneous equations that too many students don't do it, and then they make a mistake with their negative sums. So if we check the values work in equation B. Now equation B was 7x plus 4y. That must give us an answer of 8, so let's have a look. 7 times 2 plus 4 times, it's a negative, so put it in a bracket. So we know what we're doing, we do calculator work. 7 times 2 is 14. 4 times negative 1.5 is negative 6. We're adding, so plus and the minus next to each other changed into a takeaway. negative, and 14 take away 6 is 8. It's what we wanted, so the check works, so we can be happy that we've done this question right, that the two values we found works in both the equations we were given at the beginning. So solving simultaneous equations, key idea, make one of the coefficients in front of the letter the same number, then decide whether you add or take away the equations to cancel out. In this case, to cancel a plus 4y and a negative 4y, we had to add the two equations. If this had happened to have been plus 4y, then we'd have done a takeaway here, because 4y take away 4y would have been 0. But it's two different signs, so we end up adding the equations to the same signs. You end up taking at this stage if you want a little trick with these waves. That's solving simultaneous equations.